Championship.
No matter where you are in the Webiverse, you know you are now part of the Sport Fishing Championship, the second stop of 11. SFC, we're bringing it to you live. SFC Plus, SFC Live. It's Live Plus. Robbie Floyd, Peter Miller, having a good time kicking back after our CBS Sports Network show, which you can watch each and every day of the tournament. But let's kind of break down things a little bit more here in a condensed format. We've also got some updated catches from when you were joining us on CBS Sports Network. They were catching more of them, Peter.
That's right, and we've got a catch alert for day 2. Perseverance with a released blue marlin and Breathe Easy with a released blue marlin. That gives them 2 on the day. That is 700 points for them. That's got to feel really good. That pumps them right at the second place.
Closing in on Rising Suns, you saw at the bottom of the screen. And once again, Rising Suns with multiple catches, a couple of blues, a sailfish to start off our tournament. But now when you throw in the last few catches, especially with Breathe Easy, and their second blue marlin, things are starting to tighten up very quickly. Well, we've talked about those fish that had been caught. Let's talk about where they took off from, whether it be at Grand Isle at Hurricane Hole or in Venice, Louisiana. You had 2 different launching opportunities at Cypress Cove, and either way, you were solid. We had the marching band playing. We're always keeping that passion real.
Yeah, they're just a stone's throw away from each other. Both great facilities. Both have been rebuilt to be better than they ever were. You know, very strong knit community after all the hurricanes they go through, and they rebuild, they revamp, and they're right back at it.
But 32 boats took off yesterday. They left the bridge at 10 a.m. local time. They'll have to check in by 7 p.m. Local time on Saturday.
Nice parade of boats going out, heading out for the to Never Never Land. They're going to 200, 400 miles out, but it looks like the bite has been a little closer than they all expected.
You see the different waters, the different water clarity as you leave. Venice always a little bit dirtier, and Grand Isle out away from the Louisiana, the Mississippi Delta down there. All that sediment and everything washes all around. Even though you see dirty water, that doesn't mean it's bad water. There's a lot of redfish living in that good stuff.
Oh boy, they love it. They love rooting around and getting those shrimp and those crabs, those crustaceans. They love doing what they do, and they like those oysters too.
Popcorn shrimp.
Oh, there's a whole mess of ways to cook them.
You missed my Forrest Gump reference. Disappointing. A lot of catches to get to, but what does it take to win the championship? What does it take to win this event? You need points. You get 350 points for a blue marlin, unless you caught that first blue, and that's where the 100. We'll see whites. We'll see sails. All right, give me your odds. Spear or swordfish? What percentage would you give it out of 100? We'll see one of those two.
I'd say swordfish at 80%.
Really? You think it's going to happen? This was moments ago. You think there's going to be a swordfish
caught?
Oh, no,
not moments ago. I'm saying during the tournament there's going to be a swordfish caught.
Okay. We didn't see.
Listen, moments ago we were on Lifeline.
Lifeline, this is just a moment ago. We were watching it through
locked and
our
loaded,
monitors.
Robbie. He's locked and loaded right there. He's getting strapped in the seat. He's getting clipped in, crossing him up. He's ready to rock.
Why would you get locked in, man? I mean, Jordan Benefield's been doing this for a while. I mean, he's got it hooked up. He doesn't need that, does he? Or is he in for a long haul? He thinks he might be in for a long fight.
Well, you might as well prepare for the long battle, you know, because you never know. I'd rather be prepared in the beginning than have to, like, make changes in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
You know, get ready for it. You get a bite like that on that kind of tackle, it starts rip and drag, you might as well just strap it in.
And use that bootay, if you will, too. That seat helps you sit down and gain some ground.
He's using a different technique. You know, you've got Jason Bertolacci's up and down. He's sliding back and forth. Back in the day, they used to put liquid soap under the seat, and they'd spray it down with water, and he'd slip back and forth. Much easier than you would, but there he is, kind of standing up and squatting it down.
So how many times you slip out of the seat when you had the palm olive down there?
Not many. I didn't
Peter.
Use the chair very much, honestly.
Really?
Most of my big fish were on stand-up. I had a couple in the chair, and 18 minutes on a 350 pounder.
That's good.
Cranking them in, using your body.
All right, we're seeing a lot of ground being made up. A lot of times, I don't see much concern on his face, but he's just churning and burning. Again, this just a moment ago.
You know, when you have a lot of line out, whether you're fighting a fish or you've got a ton of line out because the fish ran it out, that heavy line can feel like a fish at times. Obviously, he's got pressure on there, and he's working it. But man, when you have that much line out, sometimes it's deceiving, or a spinning bait coming back, and you're like, man, is he coming at me? You just, it's tough to decipher at times.
A couple of the traveling Benefields got Dalton on the boat. and Jordan Minifield. The McDowells, very prevalent. Dennis, Lori, or Dino, Lori, and Dennis. Tommy
That's
T.
that 60 Hatteras with their tuna tubes on the deck of the boat.
Didn't want to forget the mate Hayden Browning as well. Still cranking, still reeling, slow, fast, everything's good. Just keep making up ground, and the boat, he's still going forward, right?
Yep, he's still moving forward. The fish is coming at him. That's not easy when the fish is coming at you and you're working.
Oh no, Peter. That's universal.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially when you've had them on for that long a period. You know, usually that happens when they come up jumping. You know, the line parts or the fish lanes on the wall. You know,
look how close it was. Look how close it was. That thing was 30 yards away. Yeah. All that work to get 30 yards away.
That's right. And now the mate's going to probably feel the leader looking for chafes to see what was up with it. See what it was.
Does the hook still there?
That's called the Sancocho. He's got a big circle hook, and he's got his ballyhoo head on there, and that's fish head soup.
Does it change things when the fish sees the boat? I know in other types of fishing, when the fish sees a boat, it reacts a little bit different and maybe puts a little different power on the line?
If you're throttling, if you're like power throttling in reverse and spinning, lots of white water, they start getting a little stressed out at times. But, you know, that fish was definitely not worried about the boat at that point. It just pulled, you know. It could be something in the roof of his mouth and just slid out.
Yeah, you say you always want to catch it in the corner, let it kind of catch itself. That was just a moment ago. Let's take a look at day one. Team Rising Suns, Jacelyn Berthelot didn't fish in the Dominican. Her dad did, or her captain did, and Jimmy Crochet. But Jacelyn caught the first fish of the tournament, unofficially a sailfish.
And you got to have a lot of respect for that, because they could run 400 miles. They could go to some of these spots that these guys have really targeted, and they know the big blue marlin are there. But they wanted to try out one of their oil rigs, and guess what? They got a 75-point sailfish on the line, which happens to be a jumbo. That is a giant sailfish for these waters, typically 40, 50 pounds, 60 pounds. This thing looks to be 90 pounds. It's a giant. And you got that heavy tackle cranking it in like, I'm telling you, like nobody's business. This is a 3-minute fight on that kind of tackle.
And although this is our first catch of the day, this might be the one that does it for them, because they're only 75 points ahead of second place right now. That's this fish as far as points are concerned.
Just keep accruing points. That's it. Put your head down and keep working, and then you look up at the end and you'll be like, oh my God, we did it. You know, you can get that 100 points for the first one. All in got the first 100 points for the first blue marlin. The bonus, that's also a nice winner. You got a white marlin like one of the other boats got, so that also helps. But the sailfish, that 75, is always a decision helper. It always gets you a little further, and that's what you need.
It won it for Justin Drummond this year on Quantified. Yeah, two boats, Rising Suns and Breathe Easy, with multiple blue marlin catches. It's just Rising Suns with the added billfish, the sailfish right there.
They were not expecting that sailfish. They would have had much lighter tackle. They were looking for the blue marlin, but that sailfish bit and is big enough to eat whatever they had out there, and c'est la vie.
Yeah, you needed some pretty good sized tackle, because that is a big boy as far as the sailfish world is concerned. That was awesome, and to do that as your first pitch and to be successful, because how many times are we hearing, even from Rising Suns, I don't want to say it too often, but last week they were 0 for 5 on the first day of the tournament. That means they got no fish on 5 looks.
That's absolutely brutal, but you know, they started off right. They stopped 4.5 hours into their run offshore, and they got points on the board. And then we're going to go over to Team Quantified, winners of last year's $1 million trophy kissing moment.
Quantified, they're always the ones you look for. Whoever the champion is the previous year, and it was them, everybody's going to come to that first event going, okay, this is the team to beat. And we see them out there trying to catch bait fish, do the things needed to catch the big fish later on.
Right. You know, they put the planers out, they catch a couple of tunas, either blackfin or small yellowfin, or even bonitas or skipjacks, and they bring them in, they throw them right into the tuna tubes, and they're ready. And they also have their rigged mackerel, their horse value, and their lures. They're ready for just about anything.
That's the perfect size bait fish for those blue marlin. But let's talk about what we're not going to see, and that's Team Quantified catching any billfish so far. As we stand right now, I know Justin's got to be just tore up inside, because he pre-fished. He came here, what, a week or two early, and he'd been catching sailfish and some blues. And to not have anything midway through day number 2, it's got to be disheartening.
Yeah, you know, it's a little bit of a pucker factor when you've led the pack before and won the entire thing. You come back in, you practice, you keep consistently catch fish, and then all of a sudden the tournament starts, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? You know, we lost one yesterday. We had another one wouldn't switch off the teaser, and that's 2 fish right there. They could have been on the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, that he typically had caught last year. Now, this wasn't his best finish last year. He finished 7th at it was the first stop, and it is the first Gulf event of the year this year. But again, Quantified, they caught the bait fish, they caught the tuna. It's not a big yellowfin tuna that might win you the championship fish category, but it's just part of the program. You catch those to catch the big ones. And at what time as an angler in a 3-day tournament are you going like, it's not going to happen, or it's like, come on, what can I do different?
You know, Robbie, I never look at it like it's not going to happen. I always look at it like any given moment you can have that fish that comes up in your spread, and there could be 2, there could be 3, which will change your entire perspective. It'll change the standings. It'll change absolutely everything. You never give up. You never relent. You stay with your program, and you will get it done. These guys know too much not to get it done.
All right. Producers hitting you up with questions. He said, get hard hitting. I want to ask you questions. You've won millions of dollars. You won several titles. This is for insiders. How many events did you not make money on? I mean, did you even get a percentage? Did you just wipe those up from your memory bank?
It's funny you say that. As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I have wiped them from my memory bank. Bad experiences, you kind of like put off to the side. But I think we've been up to the podium about 128 times pumping cardboard checks, whether it be the biggest mahi, the biggest king wahoo. Mainly, I was fishing for swordfish, sailfish, and marlin, and that was kind of our thing. So we did a lot of that. I mean, I think of Key West, fishing down there. I think of Palm Beach when we caught 36 sailfish in a single day. We caught 60 overall. We have observers. It was blowing 35 miles an hour. It was raining. It was unbelievable.
Dude, it was impossible. I asked you about the negative, and all you did was bring me positive. Did you really wipe them out that much? You don't have, there's not one tournament out there that seemed to have your number year after year.
All right, now that you're pinning me down, I do have a moment. I do recall fishing in the Bahamas, trolling for pre-fishing for a day or 2 before the tournament started. We caught a 400-pounder and about a 650, 700-pounder, ridiculous type stuff. I thought my buddy was going to have a heart attack on the 700-pounder. I was watching his face. I was like, Kelly, are you okay? He's like, I'm fine. But he was kind of spitting out the sides of his mouth.
He wasn't
and I was
okay.
like, he's not looking so good. So this is, listen, this is a Peter Miller SFZ experience that we're talking about now, spitting out the sides of your mouth. But that tournament started, we trolled for 4 full days, and we never saw a single fish. And I stared at that teaser the entire time, and I sat there on the step waiting, like ready to pounce like a cat on a mouse. And all of a sudden, a 2,000-pound pilot whale free jumps at our boat in the spread. And I'll tell you what, Robbie, that almost gave me a heart attack. Yeah. I thought it was a grander marlin. I saw it was literally a whale jumped in our spread right at the boat as we're trolling after 4 days.
So the moral of the story is don't win practice, because you won practice.
Practice can really pull out all your good luck, but you got to practice. Listen, it's all about practice, meeting these opportunities, and then you can win. But you got to experience it.
All right, our updated leaderboard as it stands right now, early in the afternoon on this second day of 3. Rising Suns now the advantage, only 75 points. But again, if you're Southern Charm, all in, you catch 1 blue marlin, you're right back there. Even with them, we already know our first catch of our first blue marlin went to all in. So all in's the one that could really, you get in a tie. They broke that tie. They won. They caught that first blue.
That's right. We got Rising Suns with winning by 75 points, which is 1 to sailfish.
Yeah, that's nothing. I can catch a sailfish. Well, never mind. No, I can't.
SFC coverage of the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Frito-Lay, Michelob Ultra, Denison Yachts, and by Salt Life.
When it comes to performance, comfort, and functionality, we've got you covered. Performance apparel designed by anglers to make your time on the water better than ever. Salt Life, the official apparel sponsor of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
This spring, settle in and reconnect with one another. South Padre Island has so many great places to stay. Condos, resorts, and hotels. Oh my! Book your spring getaway today. And start making memories poolside with the people you care about most. Visit SoPadre.com.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
Pine tar, bay rum, all natural.
It's time for your old soap to take a
hike with Dr. Squatch, the best natural men's soap, deodorant, shampoo, and so much more.
Dr. Squatch is for players like Justin Herbert, who are here to shake things up,
Who break records?
and hearts, who are tough on the outside and soft on the skin side, who only use natural performance enhancement and want their end zone to be fresh.
Go to drsquatch.com today. Feel like a man, smell like a champion.
Are you ready for the ultimate luxury fishing experience? Join the Sport Fishing Championship talent on the SFC Experience, where you'll explore incredible fisheries and enjoy world-class hospitality from diverse cultures and SFC partner locations. With the SFC Experience, you'll create unforgettable memories with friends, families, or colleagues. Book your trip today and embark on the adventure of a lifetime with the SFC Experience.
SFC coverage of the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by BioLite, Ice Shaker, Durabright, and by Denison Yachts.
Welcome back, fans on the web. Burning off those gases like I'm going to be jogging back to the hotel here after a bit and checking out our live leaderboard as you've been watching throughout the day. Look at that boat. He's not going out 200 to 300 miles, Peter Miller, like our fleet is. He's going inshore. He's getting a little tighter.
Oh, yeah, that's so much fun. You've got a great fishery out here, but what we're focused on is blue marlin, and we're looking for white marlin and sailfish and possibly swords.
Speaking of, Rebecca on day one. Yesterday we saw them. They hooked up. This was fun. This was cool. Now, we saw Lifeline earlier have something on for the longest time, boat up for the most part, reeling a lot, and we never got to see the fish. This one, I didn't know if we were ever going to see the fish, and then finally she showed up.
You know, this is something that everyone can relate to when it comes to fishing. Sitting in a chair and fighting a big fish out of a chair is it's hard to imagine if you've never done it or seen it. But everyone can understand a bent rod at the side of the boat and your hip, you know, everything you got, leaning back and kind of, you know, switching feet around so you can kind of get in good position in case the boat's rocking. But this is definitely a lighter style tackle. You know, it's probably 30-pound test, I assume.
Yeah.
Probably 30. And, you know, looking for white marlin sailfish. And who knows, this, you know, fish came up and ate it and it was go time and he's got to fight it and hope for the best.
I watched this so many times already. I'm going to have a bruise on my hip. I mean, I'm going to need a belt just to watch it again. This was a cool fight and one of our biggest, best jumps of the season. We've already seen a couple. We saw one out of Jason Berthelot. But knowing that he had the lighter tackle and at times making up ground, other times just trying to hold ground.
He's backing on the fish right now, and he's getting all gain right there. He would not be cranking if he wasn't getting gain. So every turn he's making, he's getting gain. He's probably going to feel the rod tip shake, and that's when you know the fish is rising up, and you can see the line rising up in the water column, and you know something big's about to happen.
Oh, it's like you've seen this before, Peter. Watch what happens here.
Oh, I've seen the future, and it looks bright, and it looks blue, and this is a big one right there at the side of the boat. 30-pound test, far like a champ, 2 wraps, and the fish is gone. That is the way to do it.
Hey, quality by the angler, as well as the mate, and getting that fish. That was awesome. How about our legendary marine replay of the day? When that fish came to the top, there is nothing better than that.
Especially when you're not really sure what it is. You don't know how big it is. You don't know what's about to happen. But this is your one shot at grabbing that leader. Had he missed that leader right there, that fish could have dove down and just broke off right there after that long fight. But listen, this angler was great at what he did. He performed like a champ. He's an athlete. You know, he knew exactly what to do, and he took his time. He didn't rush it.
Alan's probably going, man, it's been a long time since anybody called me an athlete, but I appreciate it, Peter Miller.
Well, he just fought a fish for well over an hour, a giant fish on light tackle. I mean, he's got to be some kind of athlete.
Yeah, he did good. He did.
Sure is.
Hey, he caught more fish today than we have.
I'll tell you what.
But speaking of that, I saw that SFC Experience commercial during our break. They could fish with you. I had to go for comedic relief if it came down to it.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because we did get a call from somebody that wanted to fish with me, and we went over to Newport, California, went on a headboat with his entire family and caught a bunch of fish. Had a phenomenal time, went out for dinner, and I came home, and it was just a wonderful experience.
Good job. And now we're looking at Jason Berthelot. One of her several catches, many catches, already 3 so far, a day and a half into fishing. And we go from the small rod and reel combo to the heavy duty rod and reel combo.
Yeah, you can really lean into these fish when you're in the chair and you've got the bucket harness, you got the seat, and you know, you're strapped in, and everyone's looking out for you. You got a handle on the back there just to kind of bring you back down in case she needs to come down.
So the butt end of that rod is mounted low comparatively from what we were seeing on the, you know, Mr. Latham a little earlier. It's down there low. I know you say always put your hand up there near the front, but
it's a bent butt. You can see it way down almost by her ankles in a gimbal, in a steel gimbal that pivots, and she's you know, she's in there, and that is the setup that you want. Back in the day, it was a straight rod, you know, and then they finally went to bent butts. Now they sell like a uni butt where you can actually move it into position, whatever position you want. You can have it straight up and down, or you can ratchet it to any angle you want.
Using that fulcrum, and there's another great jump, and that's a big at distance, hundreds of yards out there. You would have 3 throws, we still couldn't, you know, make it to that fish.
Yeah, I would probably need a pitching wedge, or maybe.
Oh my gosh! If you could drive that far, we need to go golf one time.
Yeah,
we need to go do it. Maybe when we're in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico has some gorgeous. We missed our shot in the Dominican Republic. That at Punta Espada, I played there once. That was the most beautiful course I've ever seen. Yeah. But I digress. Look, she's working on this fish. She's taking up the slack. The fish is kind of laying there. She's not putting a super amount of heat on it. You can see her kind of cranking, you know, and gaining that line. That's all gain there. She's not going to waste her time by cranking if the line is going out. These people are experienced. Jason Lynn is experienced. Now she has to pause. She's going to pump up and do it again. Now the fish is sinking, so she's got to kind of pump it back up.
Hola, ma. Gotta get a shout out while you can, right?
See that? Straight up and down. You can see that line kind of angling downwards. That's when she's got to kind of crank it. Even, you know, every inch is a gain. You know, sometimes it's like one crank. That's how you'll beat some of these fish.
Give a shout out Jason, of course, Pip, Mike, Toby, Jimmy, Alex, Austin, and Rob. Jason LeBlanc, Lee LeBlanc. You know, this isn't their boat. That's the LeBlanc's boat. Lee actually using their boat instead of the Rising Suns, which is, I think they're putting in the 2nd engine right now in West Palm, and they're looking to drive it around and have it ready for the Gulf Coast Masters. But a lot of electronic updates on that boat.
That's right.
2 new engines, some higher horsepower.
New sounders, a lot of new things going on in their boat. You know, you got to do that. You got to keep up with the times if you want to fish in this arena. It's no joke. Everyone has the latest and greatest equipment to be able to perform at the peak, you know, at the pinnacle.
I just like it that they're keeping it in the family. Lee's Toby's cousin on his mama's side.
Okay, well, they're fishing on Houdini.
Yeah.
And as you know, they've been using Lucky Charms as their lucky charm. I find that ironic and awesome.
They're magically delicious.
Well, they're always after them. So he's got them on the leader right there, and he's kind of holding them, getting that good picture. No need to rush it at this point.
Yeah, Toby's getting the good stuff underwater right there, though, too.
Yeah.
Right? This is for them. It was already a qualified catch by that point. Now, each time you see that and you see another fish that's come up, whenever you do that, do you re-rig, you retie? Do you start from scratch again on that leader every time, right?
You got to cut it. You got to cut it back. If it's not too bad, you can cut it back and reset it. But a lot of times they'll just put on a whole new setup.
It's a big fish in the boat, huh?
It
Hundreds
sure is.
of pounds.
Big shoulders. You're talking, 4 something, I would think. It all comes down to like the shoulders on these fish. That's when you realize you got a big fish.
That's where the power comes from.
Yeah, it's where their head slopes up, and if it goes up like that under the dorsals, they just get wide. They get thick like a brick house.
Yeah, you can see the power, the force. I know. A couple of years ago, I think it was the first year they actually called it the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. It just takes time. Caught a 570 pounder. There's some bigs in here. They're working some of these sargassum lines. What do you say? The Sea of Sargasso?
It comes from the Sargasso Sea, and it's the sargassum weed lines, and you'll find the currents and the upwellings will push these together and form like a really thick line. You'll find a lot of bait. You'll find a lot of bait fish feeding on these smaller baits, and then the big fish will come in and eat. What we talked about earlier is this 5,000 miles wide that's coming from West Africa to the Gulf of Mexico. It's 3 million tons and still growing. 5,000 miles wide.
That's long. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff.
It's unprecedented.
You had talked to Justin Drummond via text as we're looking at Miss Remy and what they've dealt with. You talked to Justin Drummond, and he was upset because that messes with the baits and the way everything's set up, and things don't run right, and you get all caught up, and you got to bring them in and take that stuff off.
Some of the best days you're going to have are going to be around the weeds, and you're going to have to shake those weeds off and bring your stuff in all day long, and you can't give up. You can't go to a spot to get away from the weeds just to get away, because the fish are generally going to be in that hard area to fish. Kind of like when you get a live bait out of your tuna tube. Do you want the one that's barely moving, or do you want the one that's wiggling really hard? You want the one that's really lively. That's the one you're going to deploy, and that's the one that's going to, catch a fish. But I'll tell you what, catching weed on every bait you put out is very distracting. It's labor intensive, and it kind of brings the whole vibe down on the boat.
We know we got Renee Cross on the Miss Remy, but also Bill Butler, from the Craw Gator we saw before. Craw Gator, the boat itself, not in that field, but on the Miss Remy. It's good to, if you can't be on one boat, it's good to be in there. You just got to make the field. We've had a couple of teams actually switch around with different boats this year compared to last.
Yeah, and these guys are out of Venice, Louisiana. The captain, Luke Crenshaw, 64 Viking, using that rubberized coated net to get their baits in the boat. That's a bonita, a couple bonitas. They got their tuna tubes primed and pumping. They got more oxygen running through those bonitas than they get on their own.
Katie looked like a kid at Christmas when she saw those tuna tubes. I mean, she was like, oh, look at those.
I kind of did the same thing. I don't know if you noticed it, but I saw those tubes. I was like, huh. Because then you don't need them on the transom.
Maybe it was you.
Corners. Yeah, it was me. I like putting the cover over them. They say that their tails can dry out in the sun in there, but the oxygen going through their gills keeps them super lively.
Now there's the bridling, right?
That's right. They got the circle hook. They go through the eye sockets. They come around, and then they come up from behind and under.
Now what's the popper?
That's something I haven't seen before. Everyone's got a little bit of a different technique.
I think that's their hole poker, and in case it falls off, it still floats. Maybe?
I think it's to stop the needle from going through, or to stop something from going all the way through. Okay.
You saw right there a little bit of clutch adjustment on that drag. You see what has been caught up till this time. And again, they are catching them a couple different varieties. The 9 total billfish caught at this point. Again, they're out there searching for a billfish, but if you're not going to catch billfish, you might as well find out what you got for snacks. And down in Cajun country, you better find some oysters, and Michelle definitely found those.
Hey, Kurt. Hey, Michelle, how's it going? Good, good.
So what are we going to get into today?
So we're going to go out to the oyster farm today. I grow alternative oyster culture oysters. Our oysters are in floating cages, basically about 2 inches underneath the surface of the water. It's really exciting. It's a new way of growing oysters, and I think you're going to like it.
Awesome. Ready to get my hands dirty.
All right, let's go. So we have long lines that have anchors, and then we have ropes to the cages. At full maturity, my cages are running about 75 to 80 oysters because they're big. But when they're market size, you can hold about 200 to 300 oysters in each cage. So now we're going to suit up, and I'll jump in the water.
Oh God, it's cold.
So what we're going to do is I have this tether line, and typically I'll get 15 to 20 cages that I have to sort through. We'll pick the oysters and find out the market size, put the small ones back in. So go ahead and unhook those two for me. All right. So we tether them up, and then we jump back in the boat now, and we're going to sort these oysters.
Okay.
Give me one hand.
I think I can do it.
You got it? I'll put some counterweight back here.
The shoes are full of water.
That's okay. So we got crabs, we have baby shrimp, all kind of little critters, because basically it's a safe haven for them. So looking through this, we have some dead ones, and that's just naturally occurring. Could be starvation or whatever. That is a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I would have thought that was a dead one.
No, it's still closed. The dead ones are open.
So we just finished up getting some oysters. We cleaned some oysters. We got some shrimp. We pulled the shrimp nets. Learned a lot today. Now we're gonna go back, get to the dock, hopefully feed some of our friends over at the Sport Fishing Championship. Great day on the water.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's do this.
Oh, man, I tell you, living over here is like being in heaven.
All right. Great job on that, Michelle. That was wonderful. Loved watching that. And, you know, we know each other, and I know you're a phenomenal cook, chef. I've seen you whip up some amazing things. What's your favorite? How would you prepare that? If you were at home right now and you had that big basket of oysters, how would you prepare it?
You know, I was telling Kirk yesterday when he took us out, my favorite is baked oysters. It's actually something that's going to be in my recipe book. I've been working on a cookbook now for 3 to 4 years, and it's about time I launched that.
Oh,
so
look at that. That's a way to promo.
That recipe will be in there.
I didn't even know you were doing
Were y'all
that.
texting each other before this
I want a cut of that book because I teed you up for that. I had no idea that was happening. Robbie, each $5 each.
You already got a name and the bombshell recipes. I mean, what do we got going on here? Hey, I bet you didn't. You got that arm workout I saw getting in and out of that water. It's a little chillier, I bet, than you were expecting it to look like.
Oh, yeah. The water was freezing cold. I really didn't even know we were getting in the water, so I didn't have, you know, clothes prepared to get out or a towel to dry off with. But, yeah, we made it work. We made it happen. It was only, you know, a couple minutes to get those cages where they farm those oysters. It was really important to farm oysters and just shake them up. It actually prevents the growth in the shells of the oysters. And that's one of the biggest differences between the farming oysters and the wild oysters. So they were probably some of the best oysters I ever had. We got back to the dock and put a little hot sauce and, you know, called it a day. Had a great little meal there.
That sounds awesome. Now, you fish a lot in South Florida. I know you've been down in Cabo. You've been all over the place. But fishing out of the Gulf, I know you fished with Kurt Tillman quite a bit. How do you feel? What's the difference, you know, fishing out of South Florida compared to here? I mean, I know how I feel, but why don't you tell us what you're seeing and what you think about this fishery in the Gulf?
Yes, the Gulf fishing in here is incredible. I'm used to going out right out of the inlet back at home, so that's definitely a benefit for us, Peter. A mile or two out of the inlet, and we have all our pelagic fish. We've got our sailfish, our mahi, our wahoo, tuna. Here it's a little bit different. That run to get out there to find the fish is, you know, quite the hike. So it takes up a little bit of your day up, but aside from that, the fishing has been incredible here. For the most part, I've fished for red snapper. Yeah, I run charters throughout the summertime. Not this year because I'll be working with SFC. But yeah, we have, great fishery on both sides. It's where all the fish are at, right?
Yeah, your specialty is what?
Florida.
You like kite fishing, you like the sailfish kind of things. Now, they do catch sailfish down here. We saw Jason with those, but I wonder why it is that the Gulf teams don't use the kites like we see down there in Miami or down in South Florida.
I've always wondered that too. Yeah, kite fishing is a technique that we've mastered in Southeast Florida, but I'm surprised that they don't bring it here in the Gulf as much. I've actually had the chance to kite fish in Lake Ida in Delray Beach for bass, which was very interesting, and it actually works.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one of the reasons, Robbie. One of the reasons that we're not kite fishing in the Gulf is because you can't fly heavy enough line in the kites that'll keep the kite suspended in the air to be able to deploy a giant bait or a big tuna for a 500-pound marlin. You don't want that mess, okay?
Yeah.
Basically that's one of the reasons. Now, if you're going to fish for sailfish, smaller pelagics with smaller baits, mahi, wahoo, that sort of thing, it's okay. But when you're going for the big boys, I'd say leave the kite out of it unless you're going to drag the kite with the bait right through the middle of like a big tuna school with 200 and 300 pounders, and you can kind of skip it through there, and then it'll snap out of the kite. But for the most part, this area has big fish, and you don't want to be fooling with the kites if you don't have to.
Yep, and Michelle, you're joining us again tomorrow. We saw Katie with the tuna tacos. We saw you with the oysters. Now we move to our third day of special. What do we have in store on a food variety? Because I know y'all got to do something different. We had Chick-fil-A, by the way.
And it was delicious.
Chick-fil-A sounds amazing right now. I'm never sick of seafood, but between the crawfish and the oysters and the shrimp, it's kind of like, I'm about ready for a cheeseburger.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, if I say go pick one, it's redfish. You are in redfish capital of the world. Go have something good to eat. Maybe catch a red on the half shell, and we'll find out what you're doing tomorrow and see if that did come to fruition. I think redfish is the way to go, don't you?
I love eating redfish. You can have it either fried or fried.
Leave that skin on. No, heck no, just grill it with the skin on, roll it in there, a little butter, a little lemon, we'll be ready to go. These guys aren't looking to catch too much and eat it. They're looking to catch and release for a lot of points and a lot of money.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We're proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music, and we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
Salt Life, the official sunglass partner of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Well, we're waiting.
I'm alright. Don't nobody worry about me. You got to give me a fight. Why don't you just let me be? Got to catch a leg.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda Shaw. We all know Louisiana is as fun as all get out. So get out, take a road trip, and explore our state. Fill her up, then try a new restaurant that's as fun-loving as it is food-loving. Grab the family and take off for monumental adventures at our 21 state parks. Or take a magical minivan tour along our 19 scenic trails and byways. Louisiana's a trip. Take one today.
This is Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Plan your road trip at LouisianaStaycation.com.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
SFC coverage of the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Garmin, Invincible Boats, Visit South Padre Island, and by SFC Experience.
On the Rising Suns, we're fishing on the Houdini, and we're about to put our Lucky Charms out for day 2 of the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. I gotta get everybody to take a bite, and then we're gonna let the marlin eat some. Now we save the Lucky Charms only for the blue marlin. No bait fish allowed, so only for the blues. Now we're ready to catch one.
You saw everybody on deck getting some Lucky Charms. We did not see Jimmy Crochet. We did not see Rob or, the guys that are making it happen up top. They need some grub as well. But again, we're at the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, stop number 2 of the SFC. And there she is, Katie Sawyer. It's fun time. We get to do a little web stuff. We get to hit you with the questions. We're going to hit you with things you had no idea we were going to ask, Katie. Were you ready?
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
All right, now she's got the history shirt. How hard do you think it is for a team like Quantified to come out there knowing that everybody is looking at them because they were so strong last year, and yet we have not seen a catch from that team today?
Starting off your season with all the eyes on you can be an extremely intimidating thing. Essentially, Justin Drummond and his entire boat and crew have a massive target on their back. Everybody on the dock is like, I really don't care what I do so long as I beat Justin, right? So that level of pressure is a lot for a captain. It's a lot for the anglers. It's a lot for the mates. And I think that he probably went out there with intentions to try to change the game up a little bit, maybe get on a bite that nobody else was around. And perhaps that's why we have yet to see anything from Team Quantified.
You bring up a good point there, Katie, because he definitely has a target on his back. The one thing I see different here in Miami, kite fishing with all the boats, 100 boats, if you have a target on your back, people are going to run north of you, they're going to block you in, they're going to run south of you, outside of you, inside. So you can really get blocked out. Here, it's hard to put a target on someone when they're kind of off on their own, doing their own thing. But he did have a couple fish up. He did have one fish that came off. He did have a fish that wouldn't switch off the teaser. So he's had a little activity, but he said it's really tough fishing in the weeds. But, these guys never will give up. They will never quit. They will keep doing what they got to do, catch fresh baits, put out, mackerels on their squid chains so the marlin can get a good taste and switch off next time, and maybe they won't have a mackerel out for as long. They'll keep it fresher. They'll figure something out. But, yeah, it's definitely, you want to beat the winners. That's always something. Everyone's very competitive in this arena. You know better than anyone. So, but I do like your shirt. We've made history here with the Sport Fishing Championship, and that's exciting.
Yes, we have. Hey, what they're making
Was that
turns.
a question, Peter?
Yeah, I was about to ask a question, then Robbie tickled me.
No.
He tickled me.
I noticed that Team Quantified, they've been pulling their baits. They've been pulling their dredge baits. We're seeing a lot of light tackle. I think that's a 30 probably in Jake's hand right now. There might have been a fish that showed up on the teaser, but I also noticed that they've been catching live baits. And while they're catching live baits, while they're pulling planers with little sabikis on them, they're also live baiting earlier. We saw them first thing this morning with their live bait rigs out. Their tunas were out while they had their bait rig out, which, as we touched on earlier, especially with the full moon, your prime eating hours can be right at the first part of the day, right at the end of the day, and that's when live baiting is really the best, in my opinion, in my experience. But also, on that note, we are looking at a major time. So with the moon rise and set, we have minors and majors, and the major today is between 11 and 1, roughly speaking. And I think that we're starting to see quite a bit of fish on the board, which is really exciting.
And then, Katie, so that was my question. So talk about those time phases with the catch alerts and how they coincide with each other.
And a new one right there with Team Supreme at 117. So that just happened, another blue marlin to the tally.
That's really exciting. So just like we were just saying, with the moon phases, you have, they're generally 6 hours apart, your minor and your majors, and everyone has their own theories, but what we can see here is there have been 3 blue marlin caught and released successfully within that more or less 1 hour time frame. And it's really exciting to see Breathe Easy here at the top of the board. That second fish, that second blue marlin, has now put them in second place. If you guys remember last year at this tournament, Mon Cherie and Breathe Easy were neck and neck throughout the entire event, and Breathe Easy took second with 5 blue marlins, with Mon Cherie 6. So I'm excited to see if they keep this lead up with Rising Suns. We have Rising Suns with just one sailfish ahead of Breathe Easy, and it's really playing out to be an interesting tournament.
Yeah, it was a 250-point differential last year between Mon Cherie and Breathe Easy. Looking at some of the catches from yesterday, Team Rising Suns. Katie, you're here. Yeah, last year at this point, I believe it was Breathe Easy that was leading this tournament, and they're literally 1 sailfish away. But although that tie would be broken by Rising Sun catching the blue marlin first. But now we're looking at getting the gloves on, getting ready to go.
From Spain,
what are some of the things that you've seen that you maybe weren't able to talk about at that time? What have you seen that you wanted to get the point across?
In this event today and yesterday,
Either way,
Robbie,
yeah.
is that what you're asking?
Yeah, either way. What have you seen? You're like, oh, man, I wish I was on air right now so I could talk about it.
Oh, man, every day. But no, I'm seeing a lot. It's been really fun having these cameramen on boat. I think that it's incredible that we're seeing this footage, that we're actually, I think we're making, like you said, we're making history, like the shirt says, we're making history, being able to bring this stuff to the viewer at home. It's absolutely incredible to me. When we go offshore, we've always just been disconnected. There's a beauty in that, but also to be able to see these anglers fighting so hard. You see Jacelyn here. She's just she's up and down in her bucket seat. You can tell that that's her throne. That is where she is most comfortable. It's really incredible when you see other anglers in the chair. They don't move quite as much as Jacelyn does. She's using her legs, she's using her core, she's using her entire body to gain on that fish, and she's also talking to the captain. If you look, she'll turn over her shoulder and say something up to the captain. Everybody's going up it back and forth between the captain and the crew. This team's not wearing headsets. So there's a lot, when you see boats wearing headsets, it's harder to read the situation, but everyone's been really communicating. She's telling the captain, hey, it's taking line, it's up and down, I'm ready, I'm gaining, slow down, I can't gain quick enough, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we saw a few catches last year. They would always be like bait fish, but to see one of our billfish being caught at night is truly spectacular, and we were taking it in as it was happening. This morning, we were taking it in as it's happening. And Peter, you said you had a buddy that was international watching when we were in the Dominican Republic. Texting you, said he'd been waiting his whole life for this to happen. And truly today and yesterday, we were getting live stuff. Even when we went to Quantified, that was happening at that exact moment.
Yeah, he said, I don't know why this has never been done before, getting live feeds from marlin or bill fishing throughout the planet. And now with today's technology, we're able to do that on big networks with a broad demographic, and it's just a super exciting time in this fishery, which is now turns out to be $148 billion business per year fishing. And get that, $148 billion per year.
Popularity, I mean, we saw the NFL players. They were like kids, at Christmas or kid in a candy store. They were looking forward to going out there and catching the fish. And you're conducive to whatever area you're in. But if they're out here catching these fish, oh my goodness, you're hooked for life either way, right? Katie's the same way. Katie, I know that Mark Neifeld talked about an all-star event. Might be, who knows, hockey, baseball, NFL. But we've got the all-stars here. You better start studying up on your stick and ball sports.
Hey, go ahead, girlfriend. Did it again.
Get the GPS. Don't turn it off.
I'm really excited to see these people, in their element in the Gulf of Mexico. This team's really incredible. It's so fun that we can really be a part of this viewing.
There's Bobby. Hey. He's got his stogie.
He's got a stogie and a little a little camera.
He was having a good time out there last week in the Dominican Republic. This is what it looks like when we're live and they're moving and making a run out there on the water, making history. Peter, 32 boats are out there. That's up from the 19 last year, showing you the development of this program, the SFC, the popularity, and I promise you they're going to get a lot more eyeballs than they've ever had in the past.
And not only is it live, it's coming in sharp. I mean, this is really high quality, and there's something to be said for everything these teams are doing, and definitely the technology, my gosh. But it's constantly rigging. Somebody's always got to be rigging and re-rigging, got to keep that cooler packed. And it's cool to see these guys doing what they do. I mean, looks like a flying fish right there.
Flying fish, that was one of the predominant species last week for the bait fish, but
It looks like this team's got a dynamic spread out, like you guys were saying. They're rigging a flying fish probably for the teaser, I would assume, but they've also got 2 bent butt rods, 80s, I believe, in the gunnels, which those actually might think 30s, which makes me think that they might be pulling lures because they're going a little too fast to be live baiting.
That is correct. Yeah, they're definitely up to trolling speed. That's for sure.
See a different spread there throughout and you talk about the numbers with a rod. Explain that for everybody, or between you or Peter, Katie, about when you hear those numbers, what do they mean?
Well, I think Katie's being attacked by a wild coyote at this moment, so I'm going to take this one, Robbie. It looks like there's some. What they do is they set it with a drag. They have a scale, and they hook it to the swivel or the hook, and they'll pull the drag, and you'll put tape on the side of these reel, and you'll number out where the drag is, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and when the captain says push it up to 60, whew, you better hang on.
There's that, yes, and also there's different size reels which accommodate different size tackle, correct? So on an 80 wide, you can set your drag probably up to 55 pounds. If you set it any more, then your free spool's not going to be free. So a 130, you can set your drag up to maybe 90 pounds. That's really on the high end. That's a lot of drag.
That's a beefy
a 20-pound reel is going to be a lot lighter drag. It's just, it varies on your different style of fishing and the type of tackle that you want to use.
Hey, that's when we got the authorities here. Katie, thank you very much for joining us. Peter, thank you for always sitting by my side. It's Sport Fishing Championship, trying to do it live here for the web. A little extra bonus coverage. We saw what happened. We saw some updates. The end of our show, Breathe Easy caught one, and while we've been on there, Team Supreme caught as well. But again, we'll see Katie the rest of the week, Katie Sawyer as well as Michelle Dalton. They've been catching them throughout the week, Peter. Team Supreme, the latest at 1:17 Eastern Time. Alex Creek or Crocky?
It's great.
Alex, or I'm going to call him Alex.
Yeah, AK. I'll call him AK for now.
AK with our most recent catch. And, well, it's a full moon last night. You'll see the same thing probably tonight. If it's waxing or waning, you're right there on that thing. So we might see a busy end of day and start of the morning tomorrow as well.
Okay, Mr. Miyagi.
What did he do? Oh, wax on, wax on?
Listen.
I got you. I see where you're going with that. I'm going to drive an old car back to the hotel.
I hope it's yellow.
It is. It is convertible. Actually, Peter, you know what we're in. He got the red Mustang convertible for our rental car. As we look at the standings right now, Rising Suns only 75 points. That is nothing. Nothing.
No, that's just a sailfish away. Breathe Easy's right there. They are breathing heavy, right behind them. Southern Charm, fish away. All in a fish away. Ms. Mason, fish away. I mean, everyone's just a fish away. This is a good showing.
Peter, let's do it again tomorrow. I think 12 to 2 Eastern on CBS Sports Network, the third and final day of the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic.